All right, good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Scott. The class is AWD 1100 C# Programming Fundamentals. And today I'm going to run this class a little bit differently. As of right now, I have no one who has joined in. All right. But I've had several people who have contacted me via email, and some of them even via Teams, that they're having problems getting started or whatever in the class. So, as I said in this email right here, several students have contacted me telling me that they're having problems understanding program flow. In other words, how to set up a program, what program constants are, what program variables are, etc. Grant, good morning. You're the only one on right now, and I'm explaining to people that what has happened is there are 12 people in the class, and probably a third of the class has contacted me saying they're having some problems getting started for a lot of reasons. Got one person who had machine problems. I have other people who just told me that they don't really given a set of specifications like we have, they don't even know how to get started. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to redo that pretest. I'm going to redo every single thing that's in there, and I'm going to redo them first, all three, as a console app. Then I'm going to go back and redo all three as a GUI app. I'm going to do this very slowly and very deliberately. So, I mean, if you finished them already and have no problems, you're more than welcome to stay on, and I hope you do, and I hope other people do. But as it says in there, if you do have a good grasp of what's going on and you don't want to attend the class, I understand that as well. That's your call. All right. So, as it says there, if you are watching this on video, which most people are doing, and if you're watching it on video and you have a question or you have a concern, on the video while it's running, you should be able to see the little time thing that's down in the bottom left-hand corner and say, if nothing else, kind of write that down and say, hey, Mr. Scott, at 32 minutes, I had a problem with this. Then I know right where to go if you're having a problem. Then you can email me and I can work with you on it. Now, next Monday, the 29th, will be your first hands-on test. The test will be on chapters 1 through 3. You will have to create 3 different console problems. At the end of the lecture today, I'm going to show you what you have to do. So in other words, if I was a student, what I'd have to do to be able to submit my work, etc. So that's what's on tap for today. All right. So with all of that said, I'm going to change my share here, and I have started up Visual Studio Code. I might have to change my share and then change it again, but we'll see. All right. The good news with somebody in the class here is when I forget to do a share like this and change my share, then there's somebody to tell me, hey, you haven't have that. All right. So I am now starting up Visual Studio. All right, I'm trying to close everything I've got open behind me, which is a lot of stuff to make it easier for me to see. All right, so I've got Visual Studio up and running. You may or may not be able to see it, but you should be able to in just a moment. I'm going to create a new folder like I did before, just like I did before, because I moved that pretest folder. So on my desktop, I'm going to create a folder called pretests. All right. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start by creating a new project. So I click the Create New Project button. And the first thing I'm asked again is what kind of project I want to create. Again, I am going to first create 3 different console apps. The difference between a console app and a GUI app or a Windows Forms app is a console app is just code. There's no interface whatsoever. a GUI or graphical user interface program, which will create those next, they do have an interface. So it's more than just code. All right. So I'm going to come up in my search bar here and I'm going to type in console. And again, as always, I want to choose the console app .NET framework C#. So it should say in your thing, console space app space, then in parentheses, .NET framework, and you should choose the one that's got C# by it. I've done that. I'm going to double click. Now it asks me what I want to call this. I'm going to call this one Pretest-01-01 console. Why? Because this is the first pretest, so that's the 01. It's the first problem, so that's the other 01. Excuse me, and it's a console app. Now, where do I want to put it? I'm going to click the ellipsis that's over here. I'm going to go to my desktop and find my pretest folder. I clicked on it once to highlight it, and I choose select folder. So the way this reads right now is under project name. Mine says pretest 01-01 console. Under location, yours will differ, of course, but mine says C:\users\JP Scott /desktop/pretest/. And then the name of my solution is the same as the name of my project. I don't want that. I just want the entire solution to be named pretests. I'm going to put all my pretests in here. I'm going to click create. And then ideally you can see the screen, but I'm going to assume that you can't. So I'm going to go in, stop my share, restart my share, and make sure that it says this. So hopefully now everybody can see this thing here that says, the line I just highlighted now in blue says namespace space pretest 01-01 console. Hopefully you can all see that. Now I like to get rid of a couple housekeeping things at the start. We do need our system in here, but we don't need these other things. So I'm just going to get rid of them. Next, I have gone and made a copy of the pretest, so I can just put that in here. And in other words, what I want to put in here are comments, some internal program documentation that says what it is I'm about to do. All right, so write this pretest that calculates the average grade for a student. All right. And in doing that, I want to prompt the user for 4 different test scores. I want to display each test score, and then I want to display the average of the 4 test scores. Now, hopefully that's understandable to you. Now, at least one student, and I think 2, have told me there are things like, I just don't know where to get started here. I'm totally confused. I don't understand how to start this. All right, so I'm going to show you, and I didn't show anybody this before, but a way of getting started. This might seem like overkill, but if you're having problems, this might end up helping you. I'm going to split my screen up here and I'm going to put in inputs, and I'm going to put in processing, and I'm going to put in here outputs. All right. What I'm making right now is typically what's referred to as an IPO chart. IPO for input, processing, outputs. Sometimes it's called a hypo chart because that stands for hierarchical input, processing, output. But what are my inputs? Well, I'm going to have test, score 1. All right, I'm going to have test, score 2. I'm going to have test, score 3, and I'm going to have test, score 4. Now we could have named these things anything we wanted, but since I'm prompting the user for 4 different test scores, that seemed like a name that would make sense. All right, so what do I want to do in my processing? Well, I want to input test, score 1, Then I want to input test score 2. Then I want to input test score 3. And finally, I want to input test score 4. I'm going to move this. I'm going to tab this over 1. Okay. And what else do I want to do? Well, then I want to calculate the average score. All right. And then finally, I want to output test score 1. I want to output test score 2. I want to output test score 3. And I want to output test score 4. Plus, I want to also output the average score. So there's my inputs, there's my processing, and my outputs. You've already seen them, but I'm just going to steal those. Well, I'll do it. I'll do it like this. So my outputs are going to be test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, and test score 4. Now, my hope is that by doing that, that made sense to you. So I have 4 things here to input. I also want to output those 4 things, but after I've inputted the 4 things, then what I want to do is add them together and divide by 4, and that'll be my average score. All right. So inputs, processing, outputs. So how do I do that? All right. I'll come down here and I will declare 5 variables, I'm sorry. So declare my program variables. Now, I want an integer. I'm imagining it's a whole number. An int is a whole number, so it can't have a decimal place in it. So I'm going to make int test score 1. I'm going to make int test score 2. I'm going to make int test score 3 and int test score 4. So right there, by declaring these, that's this part. I'm letting the system know what my inputs are. I haven't input them yet, but I've let the system know what those will be. Then I am going to have an average score. Now, when I add up those 4 scores and divide by 4, all right, when I put in those 4 scores and I divide by 4, I might get a decimal portion. But if I make this int, so if I say int average score and it's 87.75, the decimal portion, the 0.75, is thrown away. So I'm going to come in here and make this of type decimal, which means that it can contain a decimal place. And I call this average score. All right. So now all of my program variables have been declared. So this will be the first. It's a little overkill here, but first test score. This will be the second test score. This will be the third test score. This will be the fourth test score. And finally, this will be the average test score. Now, hopefully, all that makes sense to everyone. There is really, I could have called this hello, goodbye, mommy, and daddy. I wouldn't do that, but I could. But you should use names that are reflective of what you're trying to do. All right. So what I want to do is ask the user now to enter each one of these 4 test scores. So now that was declaring it. I'm declaring my program variables, and now, all right, I'm going to initialize my program variables. In other words, I'm going to give them a value. So I'm going to say console.write enter test score 1. All right. Then I'm going to read it in. So I'm going to say test score 1. Now I can't do this. I cannot say test score 1 equals readline, console.readline. I'm going to get an error when I do this. The reason I'm getting an error is it's attempting to take what I put in here, which is a string or a bunch of characters, and put it into a number. I've got to tell it to convert it. So I've got to say convert dot to int 32, and then I can put in my read line. And again, when I do this, if I leave it blank or put in something non-numeric, the program breaks. We're not worried about that right now, just because of the fact we're going to fix that in future chapters. You know, it's the old idea. I remember my daughters are all in their 20s and 30s. All right. But I remember when they were little kids and they took swim lessons. I mean, the first lesson, they went into the kiddie pool and didn't even go inside of it. They put their feet in and started to dangle. Then in the next lesson, they went in there, etc. This is what we're doing. We're not starting at a full sprint. We're doing the crawl, walk, run type of mentality. All right. So I want to do this 4 times. So to try to make it a little faster, I just copied it. So I'm going to put in 4 of them. So that's test score 2. That'll be test score 3. And that'll be test score 4. Now, if I run the program, it will allow me to put in those scores, but then boom, it'll just disappear from the page. So when you write a console app and you want it to stop, you just put in a read line all by itself like that. And of course, it's got to be a console.readline. Now I'm not done, but I'm almost done with the program. I've put in all 4 of my inputs, and all I have to do is do my calculation, etc. But I want to show you, if I do a file, save all, and I run the program by clicking the button where it says start, that what's going to happen, even though the program is not finished, it says enter test score 1. So I'm just going to put in here a 1 for each one. 1, 1, 1, 1. So that stuff, the inputs all appear to be working. And as I showed you, if I do come in here and leave that blank and hit enter, the program blows up. We're not worried about that right now. You won't have to worry about that for your first test. So I now have gone in here and inputted my 4 variables. So what's left is to do this stuff. All right. So what is the average score? You all know how to do an average. The average score is equal to, first I'm going to put this in. This is wrong. Test score 1 plus test score 2 plus, I'm going to put it on multiple lines so I'm sure you can read it. Test score 3 plus test score 4. If I do that and divide it by 4.0, I'll get the wrong answer. Because the way that this works is it'll do a division. It does a division. All right. It'll do a division before. It'll do this division before it does the addition. So to make sure it works correctly, I'll put this whole thing in parentheses, adding up the 4 test scores, then dividing by 4. All right. And when you run this, after you do it, put in numbers that are easy to work with so you can test and make sure it works okay. So now I have calculated my average test score. So all that's left are these 5 output lines. All right, so I declared my variables. I initialized and inputted my program variables. All right, I calculated the test score average. And now what's left is I want to output all inputs and calculated values. So that's what's left. All right. And these are all going to be console.read lines. So console dot, I'm sorry, read, let me say that again. These are all going to be console.write lines because I'm writing stuff out. So I'm going to say test score 1 plus test score 1. Now, even though it'll print out just fine like this, technically that's a number and I want to print it out like a string. So I should say dot to string. It's just considered the better way of doing it. That's all. All right. And before I print this out, I'm going to put a couple \n's. That's it. That simulates me hitting the enter key. That's all. All right. Then I want to do test score 2. All right. Plus, I want to do test score 3. Plus, I want to do test score 4. And then finally, I want to do the average test score. And that will be, AVG test or AVG score. Well, we can put average score in here. That's fine. It doesn't matter one way or the other. So AVG score, but now I want that to print out and I want it to print out to 2 decimal places. So I put N2. And I should have mentioned, I didn't. The reason I put here 4.0 M is, again, remember, if I just divide this by 4, it's going to throw away any decimal portion. By putting it 4.0 M, it will preserve the decimal portion. All right. So this is my whole program right here. All right. I'm also going to put up here, just so you see it, and I could do as many of these as I wanted to, but I'm going to put down some test values. All right. And I'm going to say test 1. I'm going to set that equal to 10. Test 2, I'm going to set that equal to 20. Try that again. Fat fingering this morning. Test 3, I'm going to set that equal to 30. And finally, test 4. Okay, thank you. Test 4, I'm going to set that equal to 40. You're all smart enough to know that 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40 equals 100. So what I should have here when I run this is what? 100 divided by 4.0 M, and that should give me an average of 25. So when I run it, this is what should happen. All right, I'm going to save the program, run the program, and look at the results. So File, Save All, and I'm going to start to run the program. And again, test score 1 was a 10, test score 2 is a 20, test score 3 is a 30, test score 4 is a 40. It printed all of them out, and it gave me my average score. All right. Now, Grant, you're the only one watching right now. So, I mean, this, a couple of the people who have been watching this online have complained because the people who are in the classroom are not asking questions. But my guess is they're not asking questions because what I'm saying makes sense to them. All right. That's why I mentioned in today's email that if you are watching this and wait a minute, I don't get what you just did. Look down on the bottom of the screen and see if you can get a timestamp. If it happened around 26 minutes in, let's say, all right, then you can say, hey, at 26 minutes in, you got this. I'll go back and look at the tape and then work with you on whatever understanding you might have. If I run it again, and I'm going to, again, let's put in values, probably assuming they're 100. Let's try an 86, a 78, a 91, and a 100. All right. So if I add these up, so what, 9, 16, 25. I don't know what this totally is. It's going to be somewhere around 350. All right. So the average will be somewhere around a high 80. And it is. So that's what you were asked to do. That's what you were asked to do for the first program. All right. So that's it. So again, I went back, I put in my comments, I built what's called this IPO chart, input, processing, and output. I put in some test values. All right. I came in here and declared my variables. These first 4 are all being inputted. The last one is being calculated. I mean, not that you need this, but I can put in here inputted variable and copy that in there a few times. All right, this last one is a calculated variable. And again, hopefully that makes sense to all of you. And all a variable is just a value that can vary as the program's running. That's all it is. So these are my variables right here. This is declaring them, but it's not giving them any value. There is no value in any of these right now. All right, so I read in the values. I input the first one, I input the second one, I input the third one, and I input the fourth one. Again, the program will break if I put any non-numeric values in for any of those 4. And assuming I did put in numbers, what goes in here goes in as a string. It's a collection of characters with no arithmetic value. But I'm saying to convert them into an integer or a whole number. And I'm doing that for each one of these. Then when I get done, I am calculating the average score by adding together the 4 scores, all right, as one unit, and then dividing that result by 4.0 M, which I need the M for because it's a decimal. And then all I'm doing is printing that stuff out. That's the entire program. All right. So unless there's questions, I'm going to go on and I'm going to do the second one. All right. So I'm going to come here into a file, save all. All right. And I've now got pretest 0101 console. I want to write pretest 0102 console. So again, I left mouse click on my solution name. I right mouse click on it and I choose add new project. This should be familiar to you by now. And I type in here console. And again, I want to choose console at app.NET Framework. And this one will be called pretest 01-02 console. That's all I have to set here. I click create, and now I've got this one. Again, some housekeeping, I don't need that. And I'm going to put in my comment like I just did previously. So let me grab all that. All right. So this is the second program. Write C# program, pretest 0102 console that does what? It converts a distance from miles to kilometers and declare a named constant called km per mile, which holds the number of kilometers in a mile, which is 1.6, and also prompt the user for a distance in miles. Okay, this one's even simpler than the last program. I'm again going to put in my inputs, my processing, and my outputs. All right, I may have to move these over a little bit, but you get the idea. I'm only going to have one input in here, and that's going to be my miles. So I'm going to have to input miles. All right, I also want to output miles. All right, and then I want to calculate. Let me move this over. I want to calculate the kilometers. And my outputs are going to be my miles and my kilometers. All right. And literally, that's it for the program. Now, like I did before, let's come through here and I'm going to do a test value, but I'm going to do a simple one. So, test values. All right. So this is what I'll do when I get the program done. I'm going to say miles is going to be set to 10. Well, when I take 10 and multiply it, I think it's 1.69. I think I was wrong there, but maybe I'm wrong. So when I multiply that by 10, what should happen here is my kilometers, let's just put it in kilometers. All right. My kilometers should be 10 times 1.69 or 16.90 if everything works. Again, this is actually a simpler program. This is a simpler program than the one we just wrote. All right. Now we're going to have this thing called km per mile. Let me put that in and explain constants. All right. So I'm going to say const. This equals 1.69. All right. And let's see, I have to tell it the type. So it's going to be a decimal. And I've got to put an M on the end here. All right. And what is that? That's the number of kilometers in a mile. All right. Now, a constant is a special type of variable. And what I mean by that is a constant is a variable whose value is not allowed to change. I want to say that again. A constant is a special kind of variable that while the program is running, its value cannot change. So just to show you this, if I came in here and tried to say km per mile, and I tried to say here equals 4, I get an error. All right, 4m, because it's a decimal. And it says on here, the left-hand side of the assignment must be a variable, a property, or an indexer. It's not. It's a constant. And even though that's a special kind of variable, it's a kind of variable that cannot change while the program's running. All right, so let's come in here and let's do this. Oh, and I did leave something out here. That should say output miles, and it should say output kilometers. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare my variables. So declare program variables. All right, so I'm going to say decimal, miles, and I'm going to say decimal kilometers. And I told you this the other day, but I'm going to say it again. The reason these are green with the squigglies is it's telling me I've declared two variables that I'm not yet using. Okay, so I'm going to input miles right there. All right, So I'm going to say console.write, and I'm going to say enter miles. All right. Now, when we did this before with the test scores, all right, I'm going to put this in a comment. We typed in this. We said like test score 1 equals convert dot to int 32 read line. This is what we did on the previous program. Well, we don't want to do a 2 int 32 now because this is a decimal value. So when we are figuring out the miles, we want to say miles equal convert dot to decimal read line. So once we've done that, all right, convert dot to, what doesn't it like? Miles equals convert dot to decimal. Oh, console dot read line, I'm sorry. Console dot read line. Put that in there too. All right. So now I'll have a value. So in other words, I've done this. Now I've got to calculate the kilometers. All right. So I'm going to put that in there as a comment. Calculate kilometers. Now I could take my whoops and say kilometers equals, and it's my miles times my kilometers per mile. So whatever I put in there times 1.6. Now, sometimes when people learn constants, they get confused. They're like, I don't understand why you do that. This is a value that never changes. Now, I'm not going to use it in here. I'm going to put something in and remove it right away. But as an example, if I put in const decimal, in fact, I could make it an int, and I said inches in a foot, and I'd set it equal to 12. Well, there's always 12 inches in 1 foot. So when you've got values like that that are not going to change, all right, you can make them constants. Just like that. All right, so I've now inputted, I have now calculated. So I've got to output my miles and I've got to output my kilometers. And I can do that in one statement. So I'm going to output miles and associated kilometers. All right, and I'm going to say console.write, and I'm going to say miles dot toString. All right, and I'll make it 2 decimal places. So N2 miles equals, now I'm going to run out of room if I keep typing, so I'm going to put this over 2 lines. And I'm going to say kilometers dot toString, and again an N2 plus kilometers. All right. Now, what I've just done may or may not make a lot of sense to you. So, and I've missing a parenthesis there, that's why I got that error. If this works, and I use my test value of 10 right here, all right, if this works, it should come out and print something like this. 10.00 miles equals 16.90 kilometers. So what I have done in here then, all right, is I have declared a variable, miles. All right. I have inputted that variable. I have calculated another variable, and then I am outputting both variables. And I've even got a little test in here. All right. The program itself has got a constant, the number of kilometers in a mile. Then I declare my 2 program variables. I'm using miles and I'm using kilometers. And then I have to input my miles, and then I calculate my kilometers, and I print out X number of miles equals that X number of kilometers. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run it. I'm going to use the 10 as a test. Whoop, it won't work because by default, it's trying to run the last program. So I have to go and click on my new program right there, right mouse click on it, and go down to where it says set as startup project. That's just telling it which program to run. So now let me run it. And I'm putting in 10. Oh, I forgot a read line. Good golly, Jeffrey. So console.readline. Otherwise, as you just saw, boom, everything just disappears from the screen. Let me run it again. 10.00 miles equals 16.9 kilometers. That's the entire program. All right. I will tell you, when you take this test next week, the first problem, which is worth 25 out of the 100 points, literally should take you about 1 minute to do. That's how simple it is. The second problem is similar in nature to the last problem we just did with the test scores. And the third problem is like what I showed you yesterday with that taco thing. And if I have time, I'll redo that again today. All right. So I have now written the first two programs. All right. And put comments in there, put test values. I'm going to, again, send this entire thing out to everybody when I get done today. All right, I'm going to send the whole thing out. And unless there's any questions, I'm going to set up the third one. I'm going to go till 8:55, and then we're taking a break. So let me do a file save all, just so I've got it saved. And now I'm going to go in and start writing the third one. So again, I'm going to go click on my solution, right mouse click, choose add, choose new project. Again, I want this to be a console, and I want this to be a console app.NET Framework C#. The name of this one is going to be Pretest-01-03 console. All right, and there's that one. Again, do my little bit of housekeeping here. And again, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in the comments that I have. So let me go down and grab these. All right, in fact, I'm not going to use all those. I'm going to kind of do it the way I did it for you guys yesterday. All right. So let me put in these comments. All right, so write C# console program pretest 0103 console that lets a user enter a number grade and displays the associated letter grades. And those letter grades will, of course, be A through F. Oops, A through F. Include constants min grade with a value of 0 and max grade with a value of 100. The associated letter grade code is shown below. In other words, if we put in a score that's less than 0 or greater than 100, all right, we should just say invalid. All right. If it's greater than or equal to 90 and it's less than or equal to 100, then it'll be an A. Copy this. If it's greater than or equal to 80 and it's less than 90, it'll be a B. If it's greater than or equal to 70 and it's less than 80, it'll be a C. If it's greater than or equal to 60 and it's less than 70, it'll be a D. And if it's greater than or equal to 0, and it's less than 60, it'll be an F. All right. So my test values, and this is, again, pretty simple. Let me put the test values and I'll come back and write the input, processing, output. But they're just going to be this. I will put in here 93, and I should get in there for that A. Then I'll try 83, and I should get B. I'll try, 73, and I should get C. I'll try 63, and I should get D. I'll try 53, and I should get F. In addition, we'll try 2 out of range values. So I'll try, I don't know, 101. And I should get invalid, and I will try negative 44. And again, I should get invalid. All right. So this is actually, again, pretty simple for my inputs, processing, and output. All right. And what I mean by that is I only have one input. So my input, I'll call it number grade. I can call it whatever I want. My processing is calculate letter grade. All right. And my outputs are simply going to be that number grade and the letter grade. Now, I've noticed I missed something here, so let me grab this. I have to input the letter grade. All right, I have to calculate, I'm inputting the number grade. Okay, so I have to input the number grade. I have to calculate the letter grade. And finally, I want to come in here and say output number grade and output letter grade. That's it. There really isn't a lot that's involved in this. All right. So like I said, in fact, let me see if I can get this done by 9 o'clock, and then we'll take a break, because then I can come back after the break and redo all these, but redo all of them in a GUI format. All right. So come in here, and we do have 2 constants, min grade and max grade. So let's set those up first. So I'm going to declare and initialize my program constants. And what are those? Well, the first one is const int, because it's a whole number, min grade equals 0. Then const int max grade, and that's equal to 100. And again, this is the lowest allowable grade, and this is the highest allowable grade. All right, we're going to have 2 variables in here. So I'm going to here declare my program variables. And the first one will be an int, and I called it number grade. That's what I'm going to input. The other one will be a string, because it'll hold A or B or C or D or F, or the word invalid. So that'll be the letter grade. So I have now declared my program variables. All right. So I've got to go and input the number grade. All right. So I console.write, enter number grade. always assume that the person running your program doesn't maybe know what they're supposed to be entering. So I'm going to put in here 0 through 100. I'm letting them know what the range is. I don't have to do that, but it makes it a little easier for them. All right. So number grade is going to be equal convert dot to int 32 console dot read line. All right. So now I have inputted my number grade. So now I have to calculate my letter grade. And I'm going to show you the hard way of doing it, which I wouldn't recommend. And then I'm going to show you the way I'd recommend you do it, which is the way I showed you the other day. I could come in here now. So here I'm going to come in and calculate the letter grade. I could come in and say if, and this is fine, if the number grade is less than the minimum grade, or I'm going to put it over 2 lines so you can see it, it's greater than the maximum grade. So in other words, this is saying if I'd entered a number that's a number, but it's less than 0 or it's greater than 100, all right, then I'm going to put a comment here that says out of range, because I put in a test grade that was out of range. So if that's the case, I'm going to just say in here, my letter grade is equal to invalid. I could have put invalid, number grade, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So if I get down to here, all right, if I get down to there, I have put in a number, and that number that I put in was between 0 and 100. Okay, so I can say if that number grade, I can do this 2 ways. I can say if number grade is greater than or equal to 90, like that, and, which is 2 ampersands, that number grade is less than or equal to 100. Now I can do that, and I can make those checks, because that check there is like the checks I showed you here. I can do that, but it's really redundant code, because if I just leave this off and do it like that and get rid of one of those parens here, I already know that it has to be a number grade that's between 0 and 100. So I don't have to check to see if it's less than or equal to 100. I can already be assured that it is. So I can come in here and say letter grade equals A. All right. Now I'm going to copy this down because I want us to be able to take our break. A, B, C, D, F. All right. So if it's this, and I need the word else here, else if. And if you say, I don't understand that, there is nothing on your homework. There is nothing on your labs. There is nothing on your test with an if statement. So, Mr. Scott, why did you show us an if statement? Because next week we're going to get into them. And I just thought, as a little prelude, it might make sense to show them to you now. That's all. And if I was wrong, then I apologize. It's interesting. I'm actually at Rankin today because I've got a student that it's another story. But the point is, there's an alarm going off behind me, and it's really, really noisy. All right. So I make my range check. All right. And I say that if I get down to here, I know it's a number that's between 0 and 100. So if it's greater than or equal to 90, you got an A. If this is true, if what's in blue is true, I skip all of this. As soon as it finds a correct condition, it executes the code in the curly braces and it jumps out. So let's say I put in a 93. All right. Is that greater than or equal to 90? Yes. So I get an A. Let's say I run it again and I put it in 83. Is that greater than or equal to 90? No. Is it greater than or equal to 80? Yes. So I get a B, and I work my way down like that. All right. So the only thing that's left to do then is to output my variables. So, and I'm going to come in here and do a console.writeLine, and I'm going to say number grade plus number grade dot toString. And then I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to put in my letter grade. Now, I don't have to do a toString on that. It's already a string. So I can just say letter grade. And that's the whole program. All right. Now, why am I getting an error here? What did I say letter grade was? String letter grade. Oh, it's complaining because I didn't give this an initial value. So I'm just going to say equals double quote, double quote. All right, I think that error, yeah, the error went away now. And then the very bottom, I need a console.readline. So let me save this and run it several times. So I'm going to, oh, again, I've got to set my program. So let me come over here, right mouse click on the new program and choose set as startup project. All right, now let me run this. If I put in something out of range, 111. All right, letter grade is invalid. Okay, that's good. So that's a good start. And I need a \n here. So that's over 2 lines. All right, so let me run it again. And again, I'll put in another invalid grade. All right, again, invalid. So that works. Let's check my A's. And it says you got an A. That's correct. Let's run it again and check my B's. And that's working. Running it again and looking at C. That worked. Running it again and looking for a D. That worked. Running it again and looking for an F. And that, whoop, the F didn't work. So let's look at that. That's why you test. Not here, letter grade equal F. Oh, there's a mistake. If it's greater than or equal to 0, that's why you test a program, because I put an error in there, not purposely. No. All right, but let's go run that one more time. So file, save all, and let me just run that last one, and I'll put a 43 in here. And it says it's an F. So we're going to take our break in 2 minutes, but I've come in here now, and in the first hour, I have rewritten all 3 of these programs, and I have rewritten each and every one of them as a console application. Again, that's the kind of application that you will be writing 3 of those for your test on Monday. I put comments in for each one. I created an IPO or input processing output for each one. I made some test cases for each one. I documented what I was doing in here, as far as I can tell. So this would be output, number grade, and letter grade. All right. So I've got all that done. And again, I realize you're the only one watching here, but if you got any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a break until 9:15. And at 9:15, I'm going to come back and I'm going to rewrite all 3 of these, and I'm going to rewrite them as graphical user interface or GUI apps. All right, so let's take a break and I'll see you at 9:15.
No, I don't have any questions, and I feel good about this and good about the GUI side of things too. So I think I'm just gonna go do some lab
Okay,
work.
that's not a problem. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.
You too. All right, it is 9:15, so I'm going to come back and now I'm going to write or rewrite all three of these programs, and I'm going to rewrite all of them in a GUI format. I've already copied the comments here. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new project by left clicking on the solution, right mouse clicking, again choosing add new project. And this time I want a Windows Forms project. And again, I want to make sure I choose the Windows Forms app.NET framework with C#. And I'm going to call this one Pretest-01-01 GUI. And there it is. All right, now there's nothing created yet, but I'm going to create that right now. So let me bring up my toolbox. All right, and pin it. There we go. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, and a couple of you have talked to me about problems that you're having when you go from the view here to your code view. The easiest way to do this is to right mouse click in an empty version of the form and choose view code. All right. And there it is. Now, again, for housekeeping, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff because I don't need it. Doesn't hurt to leave it in there, though. And I'm going to come back in, and I've just added all those comments that I had before. All right, just so I don't have to rewrite those. The only other thing that I'm going to add here, because this, what I'm about to show you is for GUI things, and that is set accept button, cancel button, Windows start position, and tab order. All right. So other than that, the comments should be the same in here. All right. So I'm going to come in and write that for you right now. Again, just because it's the way that I am, I don't like the gray color in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my background color. And I will use the, whatever that is, purplish. All right. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of my form. All right. So this is the first problem. So again, this one is the test scores. Okay. So I'm going to change the name of this to FRM test scores. Okay. First thing, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose set as startup project. So when I run it, it's going to run this. Then I'm going to left mouse click on the form to highlight it, right mouse click on the form and choose rename. All right. And I'm going to call this little FRM, which is the recommended prefix, and test scores with a big T, little EST, a big S, a little SCORES. When I hit enter, a dialog box is going to come up right here, and it's going to say, hey, you're changing the name. Do you want any and all internal files to change? Always type in yes. All right, so now I've changed the name of my form, and it says form 1 up here, which I don't like. So for the text, I'm just going to type in here, test score average program. You can put in whatever you want. And there's that. Now I'm going to build my interface. All right. And I don't need to probably, I want to make it a little bigger. And I'm going to come in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label. There's that label. I'm going to immediately come in because it's very hard to distinguish that from the background. And I'm going to make it one shade darker. So there's that. I'm going to go to my auto size and set that from true to false so I can change the size of my label. I want it to be about that big. So I've got that. Now I'm going to put in a text box. So I'm double clicking on my text box. All right. And I'll make that a little bit bigger as well. All right. And I'm going to change the size of both of these in just a second. All right. Now I'm going to add a button. There's my button. And I want to change the size of each one of these. All right, that button's going to have to be a little wider, I can tell. So I'm going to highlight all three of them. I'm going to go over to where it says font. I'm going to click on it, click the ellipsis, the three dots, and I'm going to choose Arial, and I'm going to choose bold, and I'm going to choose, just so I'm sure it's coming out okay, 20 point. And there's that. All right, so now that's good. And I know I'm going to have three buttons. So I'm with my button here, I'm doing a Control C to copy and a Control V to paste and another Control V to paste. So there's my buttons. All right, and I want to make 4 test scores and an average. So I'm probably going to have to move these down a bit. So let me highlight this. So that's test score 1. There's test score 2. There will be test score 3. There will be test score 4. And there will be the average score. All right. So I can probably move this over a bit like that. All right. And make my interface a little bit narrower. There, that doesn't look too bad. Now I haven't written my stuff in here yet. I haven't changed the name of my controls. All right, etc. I'm going to do that next. But first, because this is just the way I like to do things, I'm going to click on the button. All right, then I'm going to do a Control A to highlight all of my controls. And I'm going to right mouse click and choose Lock Controls. Now my interface has been locked into place. That's what I want. All right. Now the order in which you change these names doesn't matter. I'm going to do the buttons first. And I'm going to change the name of this button to BTN. That's the recommended prefix. And then the word calculate. So the only thing that's highlighted or that's uppercase in there is the C in calculate. And for the text, I'm going to make that text calculate. Then I'm going to do a similar thing. This button 2 with the text on here is going to be clear. All right. And the name is going to be BTN clear. And then finally, the last one, the name will be BTN exit with a big E. And the text on there will be exit. So now my buttons are all done. Okay. I'm going to just do all of my text boxes next. All right. So I'm highlighting the first text box. I'm going to change its name to TXT test score 1. I'm going to copy that. There we go. And that's my first text box. The second one will be TXT test score 2. My third one will be TXT test score 3. My fourth one will be TXT test score 4. And finally, the last one will be TXT AVG score. So now those have all been renamed. So what's left is to rename these. All right, and I'm going to just do them one at a time. So here, this will become LBL, which is the recommended Microsoft prefix for a label. LBL test score 1. And for the name of it, I'm going to actually put in here test score 1. Hopefully I made it wide enough, and it looks like, of course, I didn't. So let's widen this out a little bit. There we go. That should work then. Relock my interface. There we are. All right, so I've got test score 1. So I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to change the name to LBL test score 2. And I will change the text on there to test score 2. All right, my next one will have text of test score 3, and it will be renamed to LBL test score 3. The next one will be renamed to LBL test score 4. And the text on it will be test score 4. Finally, the last one, the text on there will be AVG score, and the name will be TXT AVG score. Whoops, put something illegal in there, so let me TXT AVG score. Well, I must have renamed something else that already, so let me check. Test score 1, test score 2, test score 3, test score 4. What doesn't it like there? I don't know. Oh, did I make that? Yep, no, TXT. Well, let's try it one more time. LBL AVG score. Oh, took it that time. Now I can double check to make sure everything has been named accordingly by coming over here and on this whitish line that says properties. If I click the down arrow, it shows me all of my controls, and I can see by looking at them, they've all been renamed. That's good. All right. So I could run it now, but I want to do 3 things first. I want to click on an empty spot on the form. I want to go over to my accept button. It says none. If I click on it, I get a down arrow, and I want to choose BTN calculate. That means when I run the program, I'll either be able to click this button to run it or hit the enter key. All right, then I want to go down to the cancel button and do the same thing, but I would have set the cancel button to BTN clear. Now when I want to clear, I'll either be able to click here or hit the escape key. Finally, I want to click on this here, and I want to go to my Windows start position and change it from Windows default location to center screen. Now, I haven't saved yet, so I'm going to do a file save all, and I'm going to run it. None of the buttons are yet functional, but you can see that looks pretty decent. All right. The one thing I forgot to do was to change my tab order. So I want the tab order. I'm going to enter something here. I'm going to enter something here. I'm going to enter something there. I'm going to enter something there. This is going to be calculated. So I want my tab order to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's what I'm going to set it to right now. I'm going to click in the first box, do a view tab order, and this will be 0, 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So those have now all been set. To turn those numbers off, I do another view tab order, and this average, that should be a read-only field. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go down in my properties window to read only, and I can either click on it, click the down arrow and choose true, or I can double click it to go from false to true. Either one of those will work. All right. Now I've got to put code in for these 3 buttons. So for my calculate button, the code will go right there in just a moment. For my clear button, the code will go right there in just a moment. And for my exit button, the code will go right there in just a moment. Now, I've already given you the code that I keep using continuously, all right, continuously for my exit button. I'm going out to my mail and I'm grabbing that code because I always forget exactly what it is. All right, so there is the code for my exit button right there. It's nothing new. It's the same stuff we've looked at. It's the same thing I gave you, just dropped it in. So if I come in here and do a file, save all, and I run the program, the exit button should now be functional. Do I want to exit? No. Do I want to exit? Yes. So that works. The next thing I want to do in here is when I press clear, I want 6 things to happen. I want this to clear, 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 and my focus to go right there, or the cursor to go right in there. So let's do that. So txt test score 1 dot text equals double quote, double quote. Let me just copy this down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Change that to a 2. Change that to a 3. Change that to a 4. I want my txt average score dot text to be equal to double quote, double quote. And then finally, I want my txt test score 1 dot focus. So now that should be done. Let's again do a file save all, and let's run that, make sure that works. So I'm just going to put some garbage in here. And I'm going to click right there. I can't put anything in there. Remember, it's a read-only field. But when I click clear, that should clear, that should clear, that should clear, that should clear, and my cursor should be in there. Notice where it is now. So clear. All right, and there's my cursor blinking. Everything is done. So the only thing that's left to do, is to write the calculate. All right. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. There are different ways of doing it. I'm going to do it in what I consider to be the most straightforward and intuitive way. So just like we did before, if you remember when we ran this before, we had int test score 1, int test score 2, int test score 3, int test score 4, and decimal. Just to show you, I'm going to grab those same variables and I'm going to use them right here. Right, the exact same variables. Again, I get the green squiggly underneath there that is telling me, that green squiggly is telling me that I've got variables that aren't being used, but I've already created them, okay? But now I want to fill up the 4 hex boxes with the associated test scores. So I want to say txt test score 1 equals oh, I'm sorry, do it the other way. I want to say test score 1. So I want to fill up the 4 test scores with the associated text box values. All right, so I want to say test score 1 equals, and I've got to convert it. So convert dot toInt 32 txt test score 1 dot text, like that. That'll fill up the first one. I want to do all 4. So this will be 2, 3, and 4. I have to change these accordingly as well. 2, 3, and 4. So now I've got those values. And then again, jumping back here, just like we did before, I can do my average score. All right. Now, when I did this, sorry about that, let me jump back. Okay. Let me come in here now, put that in. Notice I don't get any error. There's my average score. So the only thing, there's only one more line of code and I'm done. Put average test score value into associated text box. All right, so I want to say txt average score dot text equals the average score dot to string, and I will make it 2 decimal places. So N2. And I'm going to use the same test values that I used previously. So I'm going to put a 10 in the first one, a 20 in the second one, a 30 in the third one, and a 40 in the fourth one, and make sure that I get a 25.00. All right. So to make sure I get that, and I should have put that in there too, 0.00, to make sure I get that then in my answer. So let's do a file save all, and let's run this again. And I'm going to put in 10, hit tab, 20, tab, 30, tab, 40. Now I could click calculate, but I can also just hit the enter key. 25. Now I can click clear, but I can also hit the escape key. Let's just put in 4 random scores: 78, 65, 91, and 99. So if I add those up myself, what? That's 190, 255, like 333 approximately. So it should be like 83.25 or something like that. And there it is. And clear works. And I can exit and say no, or I can exit and say yes. Hopefully what you're seeing as I'm going through these is how similar a lot of this stuff is. So with that done, I'm going to do a file, save all again, just to be sure I've got everything. And I'm going to create my next one. All right. So I'm going to click left mouse click on my solution, right mouse click on my solution, choose add new project. And again, I want a Windows Forms, and I want to choose the Windows Forms app.NET framework for C#. And this one will be Pretest-01-02 GUI. I'm going to immediately set that as my startup project. All right, and move this over, and I'm going to grab the comments from when I ran that before. So I'm going to go back and grab all these comments. Again, this is a fairly simplistic program. Close that, and I think I can also close that. All right, I'm just trying to clear this out a little bit. Those were the test scores, so that's this one. There we go. All right, so let me right mouse click on here, choose view code, do my cleanup work that I usually do. All right, come down here and paste in my comments. So I now have all those comments. Just like I did previously, I do want to come down here and put in set accept button, cancel button, Windows, start position, and the tab order. Okay. So this is a simpler interface. There's only 2 text boxes and 2 labels and the 3 buttons. Okay, same thing we had before. So let's quickly build the interface here. Again, I'm going to stretch this out a bit. There we go. And stretch this out a bit. And as I do, I'm going to come in here and immediately change the back color for my form. And I did purple, so let's do this one. I guess that's purple, really. All right. And so let's come in there and immediately change the name of our form. So I'm going to right mouse click on the form, and I'm going to choose rename, and I'm going to change this to FRM miles to kilometers converter. It's a little long, but it'll work. All right, again, it says, do you want to change all the internal files? Yes, I do. So that's all been changed. And for the text that's on there, I just copied it. So miles to kilometers converter. And now I've got that up here. All right, so let's make the interface. And I will go in and add, and I'm doing this, very pragmatically, very, very much the same way every time. There's my button. Okay. Then I need a label, which as I do, I will immediately set the background color to 1 darker so it stands out. So I've got that. And I'm going to set up a text box. All right. Now I'm going to highlight all three of these, go over to my font, and as I have been doing, I'm going to set the font type to Arial. I'm going to set the font style to bold, and I'm going to set the font size to 20. All right, so those are all done. Okay, I know that I need the word kilometers in here, so that's going to have to be bigger. So this won't be big enough. So to change that, I've got to come over here and go to my auto size property and set it to false. All right. So I've now got these two things, and that looks pretty good. I don't know if that's even big enough to hold the word kilometers. So let's see. Hopefully that will be. Make it a little bit bigger. There. That should be plenty big. Should be able to cut down the size here. All right. Now I'm going to copy this. You don't have to do this. You can do it manually. I'm just trying to save a little bit of time. So there's my first button. There's my second button. And there is my third button. All right, so I now have all my interface basically is done. So as I usually do, I'm going to do a Control A to highlight all of them, right mouse click, and choose Lock Controls. All right, now my interface is locked into place. Let's change the order a little bit. So let's do our labels first. So I'm going to call this LBL miles. And I will put in there for the text miles with a colon. And this other one will be LBL kilometers. And I will set the text on that one to kilometers. Hopefully I made it wide enough. And I did. I like this to be pushed over to the right a little, so I'm highlighting both of them, going down to text align, and I'm going to set it to middle right. All right, I like that better. You may or may not agree. All right, let's change the name of this. Since this one was LBL miles, we'll make this one TXT miles. Since this one was LBL kilometers, I'll make this one TXT kilometers. All right. So all that is done. Let's change the names of my buttons. So this first button, we'll change the name to BTN Calculate. And we will have the buttons face say Calculate. Oh, and I need to make that a little wider, it looks like. So let's do that right away. Relock my interface into place. This next one here, this one, is going to be my clear button. So I'm going to change the name to BTN Clear. And I'm going to change the text on it to the word clear. All right, and the last one, I'm going to change the text on it to the word exit. And I'm going to change the name of it to BTN exit. All right, I should be done with my interface. I'm going to come back here like I showed you before. I'm going to click this down arrow here. And it looks like I have renamed everything. My exit button, instead of BTN, I accidentally wrote VTN. So I'm going to fix that. BTN. All right. So everything is done for my interface. So all that remains here is to program my buttons. I like them in the order in which they're shown. So there's my calculate, there's my clear, and there's my exit. Again, I'm going to jump back into here. I'm going to grab that exit code. You probably can't see me doing that. It's no biggie. I'm going to double click on my exit button and paste that in. So now I should have a working exit button. My clear is pretty simple. Clear this, put the focus here. So txt miles dot text equals double quote, txt kilometers dot text equals double quote, since I'm a little anal. There. And txt miles dot focus. I should now have two of my buttons totally coded. Let me save that and run it. All right, I didn't change my accept and all that stuff. I'll do that in a second, but I can put that here. I can put that here. Clear works and my cursor is in there. That'll have to be read only in a minute. My exit button should also work, and that does. All right, so let me go back here and set my accept button, my cancel button, my start position, and my tab order. So click over here. I'm going to jump over to here. First, I'm going to find the accept button, which is right here. I will set that to BTN calculate. I will set the cancel button to BTN clear. I will set the start position to center screen. And I will set my, right now I'm going to set my tab order. So I click there, view. In fact, let's make that read only first. That is now read only. So I want the tab order to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So view tab order, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, my tab order has now been set. Sorry if you hear the beeping behind me, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to do here another view tab order. All right, so now I should be able to run the program and it should come up in the middle of the screen. All right, I can put anything in here. I can't put anything in here now because it's read only, but clear works. Cursor is flashing there and exit works. So the only thing left to do is my calculate, and this is very short. All right. I'm going to make, again, I'm going to grab from what I had before. Oh, I didn't put in my constant, so let's put in the constant. Right, so in my code, again, right up at the top, right after the initialized component, I'm going to put that in there. All right. Don't know what happened. Why I, okay, I guess I put that in there. So I'm going to put in here declare and initialize program constant. All right, and again, that's the number of kilometers in a mile. All right, so that's done. And then in here, I'll need my variables. So let's again grab them from here. There they are. I'm trying to show you that logic is logic, and it doesn't matter when you're using logic. It doesn't matter, all right? It doesn't matter if you're writing a console app or if you're writing a a GUI app. So my miles, I can set this right away because that should be equal to convert dot to decimal txt miles dot text. So that's set. All right. My kilometers should be miles times my kilometers per mile. Oops, I forgot the equal sign. I'm sorry. And then finally, I want to take that txt kilometers dot text and set that equal to kilometers dot toString. But again, I will take that and give it 2 decimal places. That's the whole program, guys. So I came in here, declared and initialized my constant. All right. This has been the same since day one. For my exit button, this was simply taking the 2 text boxes I have and clearing them out and setting the focus back to the first text box. And now when I press that button, I should have a value already into miles. So I'm setting miles, my variable, equal to whatever was in that text box, but I'm converting it to a number. Then I'm taking that number that I just got and I'm multiplying it by 1.69. I'm putting it into kilometers. Then I'm taking the kilometers and putting that, after I convert it to a string, and 2 decimal places, I'm putting that into the other text box. That's it. So let's try it. File, save all. All right. And I'll run the program. Come in here, let's put in 10 like we did before, hit enter, 16.90. All right, 23.4 gives you 39.55. I'm taking for granted that that's correct. I can clear by either hitting escape, and I can put in new numbers and hit enter, or I can click the calculate button and I can click the clear button, and exit works. So I have now finished 2 of these. My one student who was on here has got off because he said he understood what I was doing. So I'm going to immediately go in and do the last program. All right. And we should have enough time that after I do that last program, I'm also going to do that program I did for you yesterday, if I can find it, with the tacos or whatever the heck it was. All right. So I now have written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 programs. Pretest 0101 console and Pretest 0101 GUI. I've written Pretest 0102 console and Pretest 0102 GUI. I have written Pretest 0103 console, and I'm going to write the GUI version of it in just a moment. I'm going to close all this stuff that's open, except for my last one, because again, this was the one. No, I don't want test scores. I want this one. This was the one with the letter grades. And I'll be able to, again, I want to grab the comments. Okay. So I'm going to come in here, and again, the pattern is the same. Left mouse click on the solution name, right mouse click on the solution name, choose add, new project. This again will have to be a Windows Forms project. I want to make sure, again, I choose Windows Forms app, .NET Framework, C#. This one will be called Pretest 01-03 GUI. All right. I'm going to right mouse click on here and view the code, do my cleanup work, hit enter a couple times and paste in. Now that comment is in there. All right. Same thing that I have been doing. The only thing I will add onto here is, again, I want to come in and set the accept button, the cancel button, the Windows start position, and the tab order. Other than that, it'll be the same as before. Not only that, I'm going to come in from the last program, that program, and I'm going to grab my constants. And I'm going to put those in here. There's those. All right. And eventually I'm going to come back in and I'm going to add the letter grade and the number grade. Okay. Plus I can do this whole thing here. I'm gonna have to make a couple changes, but not many. So let's write this one up. So I can make this even a more trimmed down interface. I'll leave it about that width, but I can do it about like that. All right. So I'm going to have what? Let's go to my form. Let right mouse click on the form and choose rename. And we'll call this FRM letter grade. All right. Oh, I just changed the wrong thing. That was great. I changed the name of the project. That was really stupid, but I'll fix it. So let's rename it. And this will become Pretest 01-03 GUI. That's what it should have been. Okay. So let's go to the form, right mouse click and rename. And we'll call this FRM number, and letter grade. Not maybe the best name, but it's fine. Do I want to change it all over? Yes. I'm going to change my back color, as you've seen me do on several occasions already. All right. I am going to now build my interface. I'm going to start by putting in a button. I'm just going to put in everything here. So I'm going to put in my 3 buttons. Okay, make this a little wider. There's 1 button, there's 2 buttons, there's 3 buttons. All right, I'm going to put in my 2 text boxes. There is 1 text box. Oops, see. There is the other text box. And finally, I'm going to put in my 2 labels. So label. And I will immediately, as I do, change the background color of that label to 1 shade darker. And now I'm going to do a Control-C, Control-V to add another label. All right, those are now all done. I want to quickly come in here, and for these 2, I want to set the auto size to false. Why? So that I'm able to go in and actually change the size of these. Let's get rid of this one and just copy this. There we go. Now it's getting there. So now I'm going to highlight my whole interface, Control-A, and I'm going to change at 1 swoop here. I'm going to change my font type, my font style, and my font size. There we go. So those are all done. My interface is just about finished. Make this a little wider. Doesn't have to be, but I think it'll look a little nicer. That down a little bit. All right. These 2 things, I want them both to move down to here, and I want them to be bigger. All right. So what I think I'm going to do is just get rid of this one and copy this one. Now I've got them both. And we'll move that in there more and that in there more. There. Now the interface looks fine to me. Control-A to highlight it all, right mouse click, lock controls. Now my interface has been locked into place. All right, let's change the name of our buttons. So as always, this will be BTN calculate, and it will have on there the word calculate. This will be BTN clear with the word clear. And the last one will be BTN exit with the word exit on it. All right, so those are done. Let's do my text boxes. This will be TXT number grade. The other one will be TXT letter grade. This will be LBL number grade. And it will say number grade with a semicolon on the end. And again, guess I didn't make it wide enough. We'll widen that out in a moment. This one will say letter grade. Again, I didn't make it wide enough, but we'll fix that momentarily. And this will say LBL letter grade. All right. So I want to unlock my controls so I can move. Whoops, I don't want to move all of them. I just want to move these 2. All right, now I want to move these 2 and make them wider. All right, so my interface now I hope is done. Let's see, let's move this down just a little bit. There. All right. So let's go in and let's set our cancel button, accept button, start position, and tab order. The letter grade is going to be a read only, so I'm going to highlight that and immediately set the read only on there. So that's done. All right, my accept button, as I click on a blank spot in the form, my accept button will be set to BTN calculate. My cancel button will be set to BTN clear. My start position will be set to center screen. And I just noticed from my text, I didn't set my forms text, so I'm going to type in here number grade to letter grade program. So I just changed it. You can see the text right there. All right. So all this stuff is set except for the tab order. I want the tab order to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go back to here. View tab order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, to make that go away again, view tab order. Now I just have to write this, and I'm going to be able to steal a lot of what I had before. So I'll have to do my calculate, and I'll do that in a second, then my clear. All right, and then whoops, and then finally my exit. So again, for the exit, I am going to grab that code that I showed you before, paste that in. So there is my exit button. For my clear, it is simply clear this, set the focus. So I'm going to do that. So txt number grade dot text equals double quote, txt letter grade dot text equals double quote, txt number grade dot focus. That should be done. So let's run it again. Oh, and I didn't change my start project. So right mouse click on pretest 01-03 GUI, right mouse click and choose set as startup project. Run this and clear works and my button works. So the only thing to do is to come in here. Now, in here, what did I do? I set the letter grade and the number grade. I can do the same thing here. So again, I'm just grabbing that code and boom, that goes in here. Okay. Then I want to grab that big, actually the number grade is equal to convert dot to int 32 txt number grade dot text. Okay, I realize that's a little hard to read, so let me push that down. There we go. All right. Now I hopefully can grab the entire, all right, I can grab the entire code I had before, all this if statement, all of it, copy it, paste it in here. No errors, that's good. So the only thing that's left is the letter grade. So now when I get done, I can say letter grade dot text equals the letter grade dot, I don't even need a dot to string because it's already a string. So what isn't it like here? It's txt letter grade. That's what the problem is. Okay, and I should be done. Let's run it and try it a few times. Again, if I put in here, okay, there, but let's come in here and put in a number, out of range number, -45. Invalid, that's good. 333, invalid, that's good. So let's try 100. 90 should also be an A. 89 should be a B. 80 should be a B. 70 39 should be a C. 70 should be a C. 69 should be a D. 60 should be a D. 59 should be an F. 0, oops, 0 should be an F. So it appears to work. Now you'll notice that when I went through these, when I went through the version of this, the GUI version, I didn't spend as much time because I already gave you the logic and the consoles. So I will send this to you. All right. You now have six copies, 6 things that work. So the only thing that's left was that taco thing, and I've got to remember what I call that so I can find it. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break, refresh my water, and I'm going to see if I can find that test. So I'm literally just 5 minutes. So I'll come back around 10 after 10 or so, and then I will do that last one for you. Then I'll show you what you're going to have to do when you take the regular test. So give me a second here to look for that. That isn't it. That isn't it. That is not it. Let's look in here. Is that now? Come in here. File. CSAM. Oh my goodness. So let's see. Tell it to open. Browse. It's not there, so it should be in here. Type. Oh, God, I know where I put that. I can search for taco spelled right.
Oh, so
Hello.
sorry.
All right, I cannot find that file, so I'm just going to rebuild it from scratch. Okay, so what I'm trying to do in here is in this pretest that right now has the 6 things in here. Pretest 01 console, 01 GUI, 02 console, 02 GUI, 03 console, and 03 GUI. I'm going to build in there that tacos program. It won't be exactly the same as what was there yesterday because I can't find it, but I will rebuild it anyway. So I'm going to come in here and click, right mouse click, do an add new project. It will be a console app.NET framework, and I'm going to call this tacos. Okay, and create it. And I'm going to come in here and make a comment so I can show you what it is I'm going to do. All right, write a C# console app that inputs a user's first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, and the number of tacos they have purchased at $2.99 each. Use a constant here. All right. Then calculate the subtotal by multiplying the number of tacos purchased by the purchase price. Next, calculate the tax total by multiplying the subtotal by the tax rate. And I've just made this up. It's 8.2%, 25%. Use a constant here. Use a constant. Next, calculate the final total by adding the tax total to the subtotal. Print out all information, all inputted and calculated information in a formatted manner. In other words, what I'm going to be doing for the prices is I'm going to have the dollars and cents. So let's, as we've been doing here, let's put in inputs, processing, and outputs. So our inputs are going to be first name, last name, address, city, state, zip. Did I miss anything? First name, last name, address, city, state, zip, and number of tacos. So we'll call it num tacos. All right. And my processing, I'll want to input first name. I'll want to input last name. I'll want to input address. I'll want to input city. I'll want to input state. I'll want to input zip. I'll want to input num tacos. Next, I'll want to come in here and calculate the subtotal. Next, I will want to calculate the tax total. I spelled total wrong. And I will want to calculate the final total. I'm just going to keep those all lowercase. Finally, I want to output the subtotal. I want to, my goodness, I want to output the tax total, and I want to output the final total. So by outputs, this over a bit, my outputs are going to be first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, num tacos, subtotal, tax total, and final total. So that is the way that it's supposed to look. All right. Now, the reason when I do this and I come in and I put inputs, a couple of you have contacted me and said that you're having a hard time figuring out exactly what variables to use. So this is another way you can do this. Will it take a little more time? Of course it will, but you will hopefully have a better understanding of the program. So what we want to print out when we're all done is basically a receipt. So we're going to say here, I will just put in the word receipt. All right, and I'll have name, and I'll combine these together. So like my name, address. We'll put a couple tabs in here so it looks nicer. 755 Parr Road. City, Wentzville. State, Missouri. Zip code, 63385. I just put in a pound sign for number and tacos. Let's say I purchased 10 of them. All right. So that's going to be 10 tacos at $2.99 each. So I'm going to have down here, I'll put an, I don't know, about subtotal, which will be 10 times $2.99. All right, so $29.90 if I did my math right. And then I'll have my tax total. Let's just do this and make sure I'm doing it right. So 2.99 times 10 should be 20. Whoops, try that again. 2.99 times 10, 29.90, that's correct. So that 29.90 times 0.0825 will give us our tax total, which rounded up should be $2.47. And then our final total, when I add those two up, right, that over 1 and 1, so it looks a little better. So adding those together, that will be $32.17 if I added right, and I think I did. So I'll put a dollar sign here and a dollar sign here. That'll probably be pushed over. It won't look nearly as nice, but that's okay. And a dollar sign here. So that's going to be my program run right there. All right, so I'll just call it that, program run. Okay, so that's everything. So the first thing I want to do is I want to declare that constant here and that constant here. So let's come down to here, and immediately before our main, I'm going to declare and initialize program constants. So I will have const decimal, and I'll say taco price, and I'll set that equal to 2.999 M. With another const decimal, And I'll call that tax rate. And that'll be equal to 0.0825 M. That over a sky there. So those are done. So I've now created that constant and that constant. So now I want to create my input variables. That'll be a string, that'll be a string, 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 and integer, because that's the number of something. So let me put these in there. So I'm going to declare my program constants. So I'm going to say string first name, string last name, string address, string city, string state, string zip. So that'll handle all those. Then I'll have an int for, again, num tacos. Right? I will have a decimal for subtotal, another decimal for tax total, and another decimal for final total. So that should be, unless I've missed something, and I don't believe I have, those are all of my variables. So that has declared, that should say variables. So that right there has basically done this. That's right here. So now I've got to do these 3 calculations and then output everything. All right. So let's input all this stuff. So what I have to input is all this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. Inputs. All right. Input values. It doesn't matter what you say here. So I'm going to say a console.write line. I'm sorry, it'll just be a write. Input first name. And I don't have to do any conversion here, so I can just say first name equal console.readline. There's no conversion. So that'll be the first name, last name, address, city, state, zip. So let me change all these. So this will be last name, and so will that. This will be address. This will be city. This will be state. And this will be zip. I'll just say zip code. Even though I called it zip, that's totally fine. We also have one more input, and that'll be our number of tacos bought. Oh, we can say purchase, that's fine. And so this will be num tacos, but I'm going to get an error when I do this because I have to do a convert here. Oops, convert dot to int 32. Now I can put in my read line. All right, so those are all of my inputs. I'm going to just quickly throw a read line in here, and I needed to make it a console.read line. All right, and I'm very quickly just going to run it before I do my calculations to make sure everything looks correct. So do calculations. So in other words, the subtotal, tax total, and the final total. So I'm going to do that in just a moment. And after I do that, I'm going to say output receipt. But before I do that, I just want to see what it looks like now. And I like to do that, make sure before I put in my logic, I'm not missing anything. Whoop. And I've got to change this. Right mouse click on tacos and set that as my startup project. There we go. All right, so under first name, I'm just going to put garbage in for all these. And we'll put in here 4. All right, that all is working. That's good. So now I can do my calculations. All right, so the subtotal is going to be equal to the number of tacos times the price. What did I call that? I thought I called it price per taco, but taco price. All right, so that's done. The tax total is equal to the subtotal times the tax rate. And the final total is equal to the subtotal plus the tax total. Okay. So all that is left to do is to print out all my, put in my receipt. Again, I'm going to do a file, save all. And you may or may not have noticed, and I mentioned this in an earlier lecture, but I'm going to say it again here, that when I run this, so I'm just going to again. All right. Now, when I put this in, I want my cursor, I want it to go down a little bit so I could write my receipt. I could even clear the screen, but I'm not going to. Okay. So I am going to come down here and I want it to look like this right here. So I'm going to grab this just so I have an idea. I'm going to remove it later, but I want to know what it's supposed to look like. Back down to it right here. So it should look like that. I'm just, like I said, all I want to do is make sure that I'm putting everything in there. So console.WriteLine, and I want a couple blank spaces before that. And I'm going to put in the word receipt. Okay. And next, I'm going to put in here name plus first name plus a blank space plus the last name. All right. And I'm just going to copy this a bunch of times. Address, city, state, zip. All right. So this will say address. So will this. City. State. And zip code. Now, because again, I'm a little squirrely about this. I like this to kind of line up just because it makes it easier for me to see what's going on. By no means do you have to do anything like that. All right, so I've got all that stuff. I'm not done yet, but I have for my in here got that much done. That's a good start. So next is going to be my number of tacos. There we go. So number of tacos. And I will put in there the num tacos dot to string. I don't have to do any formatting. It's a whole number. So now I've got all of that done. Then I want a bunch of dashes here. Just going to grab that and do a console dot write line. And I will put in there those dashes. This won't look perfectly formatted, just so you know, and that's fine. All right. So then after that, I had a blank line. So I can just do a console dot write line, and it can be blank. Then I've got this is what's left, subtotal, tax total, and final total. So console dot write line, subtotal, and I want to add to that the subtotal dot to string, and that will be formatted in currency. let me copy this because I want the subtotal, I want the tax total, and it'll be tax total there. And finally, I want the final total, which is final total. All right. It's not showing me any errors. So this is going to look ugly. I'll reformat that in just a second. But now I can go in and let's see. I can remove that. It's going to give me some errors. Don't worry, I'll fix it in a second. And I can put in there output receipt. I don't need any more of these. I don't need this. Oh, maybe I had that already. Yep, output receipt. All right, so I'm done. I'll come back and look at it in a moment. So let's run this. Jeff Scott, 755 Parr Road, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385, and I bought 10 tacos. All right, I've got spaces in there where I don't want them, but 2990, 247, 3237 were the same things that I put in there before. So I want to get rid of those lines, and then I'm almost done. Now it doesn't look very lined up. All right, so I want tab, 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 tab. So let's go ahead and do that. What did I do? Here we go. So I will put a tab here. I don't need a tab there. I will put in a tab here. I think I needed one here too, and not one there. Let's see how that looks when we get done. All right, now these, I've got right lines here, so why am I getting? Again, let's look at it. This is going to be a garbage bill, just so you know, but I'm trying to fix this up before I finish up. And for some reason, I'm getting a extra blank line in here that I don't want. Everything else is working. Why am I getting that blank line? Don't want these to be rights because they go on the same line. Oh my goodness. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I don't need any of these. All right, let's try one more time. File, save all. So Jeff Scott, 755 Parr Road, Wentzville, Missouri, 63385, 10. There's my receipt. So I do want to put a blank there. And let's put in one more tab for each one of these fields to try to make it look a little nicer. And here. Then I should be finished. So I do want, before this, I do want a \n. And I said I'm going to try to put in an extra tab for each one of these fields. All I'm trying to do is line stuff up now, so I'm working with aesthetics here. And if this doesn't look good, guess what? It looks good enough. Save. This hopefully will be my last run. Jeff Scott, 755 Parr Road, Wentzville, Missouri, 6, 3, 3, 8, 5, 10. All right, that doesn't look bad at all. Okay. Are there ways it could be improved? There's always ways that it can be improved, no matter what you're doing. So when I look in here right now, okay, when I look in here right now, all right, there was my comment. So I explained what we were going to do. I wrote again an IPO chart. I did a practice program run. Technically, I guess this should probably all be moved over one, but probably looks a little more like that. Okay. I came in and I declared and initialized my two program constants. They were for the price of a taco and for the tax rate. All right. Each taco costs, costs $2.99. Here, tax rate is 8.25%. All right. I'm not going to put comments here because I use names. I can put a comment here. Number of tacos purchased. But I mean, to put a comment here that says zip code, it to me is kind of redundant. All right. So this will be number of tacos times the taco price. This will be the subtotal times the tax rate. Oops. This will be the subtotal plus the tax total. Okay. Input values, I've got all those. All right. I'm going to change this to calculate subtotal, tax total, and final total, and output the receipt. So those of you who happen to be watching this at home, all right, I'm going to do a file and a save all right now, and then I'm going to quit. Now, when I quit, you're going to lose. In fact, I won't even do it like that. I'm going to come up here, come back to here, and I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to start a new share. And I want to share my desktop. Okay. So I now have on here this pretest that has in it the 6 that I wrote and the taco one. So what I'm going to do right now, I want to show you, I'm trying to be again, very deliberate here and show you everything. I'm going to right mouse click on this and I'm going to choose send to and compressed or zip folder. And that made this pretest.zip. That's what I will email you in just a couple minutes. When you open this, all right, you hopefully have a zip utility on your computers. All right, if you don't, go out, I think winzip.com is free. You can do that, but I've already got one. So then you will right mouse click on it and choose extract all. Now, to make sure that it works, I'm going to grab this, the one I just made, the pretest, and I'm just going to drag it in to here. So I now only have the zip for, oops, this is still running. So I've got, oops, I've got to stop the run. So let me stop the run. All right, so let me try that again. Sure, I guess that's okay. So now my pretest from here is gone. I'm like you, I just have the zipped version of the pretest. So I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose extract all and tell it I want it to extract right here, which is my desktop, and call it the same name. All right. So it says, oh, I didn't want to browse. I just want to extract. Now I should have in just a minute a folder here that says pretests. Now you should be able to run any one of these. So when you come in here after you get this, if you double click on pretests and on pretests, might have to do it 2 or 3 times, find that solution file. This is another way of opening it. Just double click on it. Say you want to open it up with Visual Studio, and you should have everything. All right, so for instance, there's the taco one we just did. So I'm going to grab it, and if I run it, because some of you told me when you tried running it, it was blank. So that's not. All right, that worked just fine. So if you have a problem with that, you will have to let me know, and I'll have to try to work with you individually. Now, there's one more thing I want to do, but I should be done hopefully by 11 o'clock. All right. When I finish, I'm on campus today. I'm going to run from one building to the other building on campus. I'm going to send you an email today, but just so you're aware of it, the textbooks are in. The C# Muroc textbooks are in. So you can come into Rankin, go to Patrick Lynn's office, and he will give you a textbook. All right. Now, I'm going to assume here. So I'm going to, it's still showing you this probably, and I'm going to change my share again. In fact, yeah, no, I'm going to leave my share here. Okay. You all have a folder on your desktops, or I think you do, that's called AWD Fall 2022, followed by your name. All right. Again, not YOURNAME, but your actual name. Now, you may or may not have a folder in there called HOTS. That's where your hands-on tests are going to be. All right. So you may or may not have that folder. All right. That said, let's assume you don't, because my folder is empty. So I'm just going to remove it. So I'm going to assume now yours looks like mine. To add that folder, all you have to do is right mouse click here, choose new folder, and type in HOTS. Now you've got a HOTS folder. All right. Now I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to start up Visual Studio again. You won't see it until I've got it up and running. All right. But I'm going to pretend it is Monday. I have just given you the test, and you're going to start working on the test. That's what I'm assuming. All right. So I'm going to start up Visual Studio. Don't worry if you can't see it. It's just going to start up, period. All right. And I'm going to choose create a new project. And the first one, I'm not sure what we're supposed to call them. All three are constants. So I am going to choose .NET Framework, console app, .NET Framework, C#. I'm going to call this hot 01-01. But the key thing is, I want you to change your location, and I want you to go to your name folder. All right. And I want you to go to HOTS and choose that, and then choose select folder. And then for your solution name, you can make that HOTS as well. Now, you probably couldn't see any of that. It's okay. Because I'm going to do a share. I'm going to stop what I was sharing. When you get done with this, I'm going to run over this again with you on Monday. But what you should have then is you should then have under your HOTS folder, you should have a solution called HOTS, and you should have your first project now, HOT 01-01. Then when you get done with that, you will right mouse click on your solution, choose add, choose new project. It'll again be a console app.NET framework, and this will be HOTS 01-02. So you will have that in there. And finally, you will click on it again. You will right mouse click, add new, try it again. add new project, and you will put in here again console app.NET framework, and this will be hot 01-03. So when you get done, I made it HOTS instead of hot. Let me change the name of that. So when you get done, you will have this. Now, we're going to pretend, right now, we're going to pretend that you have finished. Boy, you're a good student. You have finished the test. You have finished your test. Your test is done. All right. So we will do a file, save all. Okay. And we can quit Visual Studio. All right. Now I'm going to change my share again. And again, I will show you this on Monday. And I'm going back to my folder. This is your name. So I want you to be at here, not in HOTS, but in here where it's got your name. I want you to right mouse click and choose Git Bash here. Again, I will show you and repeat this again on Monday. When you come in here, you will type git add dot. Now, when I hit enter, watch what comes up on the screen. Nothing. That's okay. All right. And I'm going to say git status. You don't have to type that in, but you can. Notice it's all my pretest stuff and my hot stuff. That's all in there now. So you came in first and you typed git add dot. Okay. Now you can type in git commit -m and you can say hot one test, something like that, and hit enter. And it'll have all of that stuff in it. All right. Now, I'm going to see if I can actually push this. Let's get remote -v. All right. So this is your name. All right. I'm going to come. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I wouldn't normally do it like this, but I'm going to come back and change the name of this from your name to Jeff Scott, because this is more reminiscent of what yours looks like. All right. Well, it says it can't run it because I still have Visual Studio running, I believe. So not that. Get that out of here. All right. It says close the folder and try again. So I've got some kind of folder open. It's not that one. And I apologize if you can hear all the beeping in the back. There must be doing something construction related in here. All right, so let's see. I don't know why it's not letting me change this, but I'm going to try to change it again anyway. It says the file is open in another program. I'm trying to figure what program it's open in. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Or that one. I think I've got anything open over here. No. Nope, there's nothing open over there. Do I have anything here that's open? Not that I can see. Right? I think it's because I've got this open. So let me exit here. Now let me try it again. There, now I've changed my name here. All right, so I've got to open this again, right mouse click on it again and go back to git bash here. Now I've already done my git add dot and I've already done my git commit. Those are all done. So let's check here, git remote minus V. And oh boy, now it's back to your name. Okie dokie. So let's send it back to your name. How's that? Your name. Oops. Your name. Okay. Of course, now it's not letting me do it because that's still open. So I've got to exit, try it again, and it's back to your name. So let me open your name. We'll do all this, hopefully without the screw ups on Monday. So let me do a git remote minus V. That does look correct. So let me see if it'll let me do a push. I always forget what that is. So hold on a second. Where is that? Commit, git remote. There, git push minus U origin master. Git push minus U origin master. All right, it pushed it. The good news is now, and don't worry, I see your sharing is paused. I know you couldn't see that. So let me go back. Let me change my share and let me show you what I just did. Okay. There we go. All right. So let me show you what I just did. I'm going to go backwards here to show you this. All right. So I did first, I typed in git. I'm going to just show you everything I typed in. Okay. Now this was the final product. When I got done, it pushed everything over. So let me clear. So the first thing I did after I finished, I opened up a git window and I did a git add dot. That'll add everything that you have that's new. Everything that you have that's new, it will add that to what's called the staging area. After I did the git add dot, it just came back with my cursor. All right, so it just showed my prompt. Then I did a git commit minus M from message, and I said hot one test or something like that. And I hit enter. All right. Then I said git push minus U origin master. All right. If yours says main right here instead of master, you've got to type main in there. If yours says master, you've got to type master. All right. Then what I can do now, just so you see this, I'll have to change my share again. I'm going to go back and show you my internet here. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. So let me get rid of that. That's fine. Where is it? There is the internet. All right, and on here, I want to come in and go to github.com. All right, and if I go to the one with your name on it, what you'll see, it looks like, well, you haven't changed it. Well, look, hot one test 7 minutes ago, and those pre-tests. All right. Now, again, I will show you this on Monday. If you try doing this when you take the test and you have a problem, you will have to email me, all right, immediately. All right. Last thing, that I am finished. That is, and some of you have done this already. All right. Some of you have done this already, what I'm about to show you. So hold on a second. And that is, let's see, invite, git, repo, I think it was GitHub, repo, how to send a GitHub repo invite. All right. If you go out to here, where is here? All I did was I went into Google. And I typed in there how to send a GitHub repo invite. And I clicked on the first thing that came up because that's from GitHub itself. Click on there. You're going to have to read these instructions, follow them. And if you do that, you will give me an invite to your GitHub repo, which means I can read it. If you don't do that, I cannot grade your test. I will show you this again tomorrow. So thanks to any of you who happen to watch this whole thing. It is just about 11 a.m. I am finished for the day. The rest of the day will be lab. If you have questions, feel free to email me. I have to quick run to the other campus building. I will be back in about 10 minutes. I could take my car there and do it in 2 minutes, but I need the walk there and back. All right. So, like I said, I am now finished. I'll talk to you on Monday.